Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin James from Scalp MicroPigmentation Australia, and welcome to another 5-minute fast facts on Scalp Micropigmentation, the Pro Artist Series, where we're interviewing some amazing scalp micropigmentation artists from around the world, getting their tips and tricks on how you can get the best out of your scalp micropigmentation transformation. Today's artist is located in Vancouver, Canada. She's been a scalp micropigmentation artist since 2010 and a permanent makeup artist for over 27 years. She's treated many Hollywood celebrities and is an award-winning makeup artist. She's the owner of Beauty Inc. and a pioneer for the Manual SMP Technique, which we'll be talking about today. She was nominated for Best North American Artist at the Team Micro Awards in 2019 and is a self-proclaimed student for life, which is a great attitude to have. Today we're talking with Shauna MAGRATH. Welcome, Shauna.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I'm so excited to share with you all today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving up your time and having a chat to us about the manual technique. It tends to get a lot of traction online when you bring up the manual technique. So we're going to have a chat about that today to clear up some great questions that we get asked a lot. So tell us,
Sure.
what made you start out a career in the beauty industry, and what ultimately led you to adding scalp micropigmentation as a service within your business?
Well, I grew up on a farm in a rural part of the Okanagan, and makeup was kind of like an escape for me. So I had really low self-esteem, and putting makeup on allowed me to become a different person and get out of my shell. And then being an art student, it was just a natural, gradual progression. And in my early 20s, I saw an episode on a science show about effects makeup, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. And I'd already been in a theater program, and it just gave me an opportunity to kind of use my sculpting and my painting skills. So I ended up finding a school training, and that built my 27-year career. We were in the midst of a writer's strike in 2007 and 2008, so we were all out of work for 8 months. My grandfather had pancreatic cancer, and so I went and cared for him in his last days, but the last month. And it was very profound when he passed away in my arms, and it just made me realize that, and all the time I've been doing makeup effects, I hadn't been really doing anything to enhance, society or use my skills in a way to betterment the world. And he was a World War II Medal of Honor, and it just made me realize, well, what am I going to leave? What's my legacy? So I put a lot of thought into it, and meditated constantly, and I just got a vision in the bathtub, and it was like I was downloaded with all of this information. And I don't know how to describe it in any other way that I believe that it was a divine vision. It was just, I asked and asked and asked, and I got a very direct and very clear answer to that. And within 4 months, I opened my doors at Beauty Inc. and started getting media attention right away. And it was really exciting because now I could use my skills that I'd been blessed with in order to help people. And I really was focusing on people that had disorders like, cerebral palsy and MS and Parkinson's and cancer. And, I deal with people that have trichotillomania and hair loss. And I guess one day a fella just came into my office and had said that he saw me on TV and he wanted to know if I could tattoo in hair follicles. And I was like, sure, why not? I knew nothing about it back then, but I had always done bald caps, and, it was very similar. So I just took that same kind of background behind creating a bald cap and using layering and texture to create cosmetic tattooing. Now, don't get me wrong, like my first 5 clients were not anything good because I didn't know what I was doing. There was no training back then. It wasn't like it is now where people, you can just go online and get a course. Like I contacted his hair, and I contacted this woman in Atlanta, and nobody would get back to me. And it was a very close knit and nobody would talk. So I literally trained myself through trial and error. And then with having results that were beautiful and successful, got some notoriety. And Dr. Dixon, who is a very established practitioner, mentored me and brought me into her world and allowed me to showcase and share my knowledge. And then it just gradually growed from there. And Rhonda Vicante has been a strong pioneer strong cheerleader for me through the years and has put my name forward for different events. And I just go and share what I love. I'm a SPCP CPCP trainer, and I had the honor of speaking last year at the conference, being a keynote speaker there on women's scalp density. Something, again, very, very few people were doing. I was doing it outside of the box. I've also done microblading on temples, and I know that it gets woo-wooed, but if it's done correctly, you can actually get some nice results, and it can be very effective. But it all comes down to the talent, the education, and the training of the artists that are at hand. And you know, I'll never say that I'm the greatest or the best, but I'm very passionate about what I do, and I love helping people. And that's the great part about this industry that feeds me every day and why I continue to learn and grow.
Yeah, brilliant. You've certainly got such a long-standing history of you know, continued learning. You can just even see a small portion of your certificates there in the background.
That's just a little bit.
You definitely are a trainaholic. All right, well, tell us about your manual technique. How does it differ from machine method of scalp micropigmentation, and why did you decide to create the manual method?
I was in the midst of like, I'm an artist, so I always work with my hands, and using a machine was very different, the vibration and all that. And I really wanted to learn how to do microblading. So I, you know, flew to Hawaii and did a little bit of training there and came back and really loved working with my hand, just that manual contact. And it actually happened by happenstance. And I had a client come in, and we needed to do a patch test on him. And I always used a hollow bore needle to do my patch tests with pigment. And so I thought, I'm going to try this. You know, it works on the side of the, you know, behind the ear. I'm going to try it on the back of the head. And sure darn not, he came back and it was like beautiful. And I was like, whoa, this is something really interesting. So I continued to just investigate and use different needles and try different techniques and try them on latex skin. And then I had a client that was very, very gung-ho about it. And he thought, you know, why don't you do this on my scalp? We'll try it. So he's been the first full head. And you've probably seen him. I've posted him on my, on Team Micro. And it was amazing. It just turned out really well. It held really well. It was really easy to do, but it takes a longer process. So then what was the second part of the question?
Why did you decide to create the manual method?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, we all have power that goes out. And there's nothing worse than working on someone and being in a power shortage. And that's exactly what happened. I was working on a woman and the power went out. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this and do it with scalp work too, because there's no machine required. You don't have to wrap everything. It's very mobile. I found with using the machine method, my hand, my wrist, oh, you know, you're doing this for 2-3 hours and the aching, and I would have to ice my wrists at night. And manual method is completely different. The technique is different. You're not hammering into the skin. So it's very, very specific, the way that the implantation is put into the skin. So it's gentler. It's very effective. It's not something I would generally do for a full head because it's slower, right? Of course. But if you have patch tests that you want to do, or you have a small area you have to do, or if the power goes out, or, you know, you have to go mobile, those are the things. So it's not to replace machine work, it's to accompany machine work. So there's more tools in the toolbox, so that clients have more options, you know, to give so the practitioners have more options to give their clients. But I would never say that it's ever going to replace machine work. It's just something that will help people in a time where they could potentially need it, because you know what it's like to set up, you know, your machine to do a couple little dots. And could you imagine if you just pulled out a handle and popped a needle in and you do your 3 dots and it's done? Like, it's just so cost effective and simple and really easy to learn. And I think any SMP artist can pick it up like that if they decide that they want to actually learn the process properly.
Brilliant. Excellent. That's a nice story behind it. Thank you so much. So what have you seen with your longevity of results so far? We know the SMP industry on a whole is not all that old, but what have you seen so far with the manual method longevity?
So far, it ages very, very much like traditional SMP. Again, it comes down to the pigments that you use. Personally, I feel that. I used at the time a pigment line called Atomic Ink, made out of Germany. I just wanted something that was going to bind. I had been using cosmetic tattoo pigments, and they were changing color over time. So I wanted something that was going to be stable in the skin. So I switched to Atomic Ink, and I had great, great results. Now, of course, Permablend has made their scalp line, and because I'm an artist by trade, I personally love it because of the rosin, the crispness of the dots, the implantation, how well it holds in the skin. I think if you're educated on it, it's a really good pigment. Having that option to have carbon mixed with oxide is amazing. I know that a lot of SMP artists are not fans of it because they've only learned how to use carbon. But I think as soon as you get out of that mindset and see that there's many more options out there, it's really great for people, you know, that have my hair coloring or very blonde. It can really soften down, and I think you just have more range. There's a lot more range, color range with it. But so far, you know, my client that I did 6 years ago, he's come back and it still looks good. He comes in every, you know, maybe once a year for a little touch up here and there. And we've changed his hairline. I originally did a nice wedge on him, and then he's wanted it brought down into a line. So I've brought it down over the years. But, you know, I see him for a couple hours once a year, and that's about it. So it holds well. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. And I think it's important for a client to have that great relationship with their artist where they feel they can just come for a yearly review. They may not need anything, but just to at least touch base and let a professional give a professional opinion on
100%. I absolutely believe that. Every time you do any kind of cosmetic procedure, I think having them come back every 1 to 2 years just for a follow-up look-see is always great. People get used to what they see, right? And they may not see the variation. And I will own this, I had one of my clients that I did with a color source pigment, and he came back after 4 years and his scalp was green. So I had to do all this color correcting on it and get it back to, you know, a neutral state again. And it's not that it, you know, I did bad work. It was just the pigment was not the right pigment, but I didn't know any better. And I had tried carbon and just had so much migration with it. I felt that wasn't the way to go. But again, I wasn't trained in it. I didn't have the training I have now. And we didn't have the dilution scales. And I mean, the industry has advanced so exponentially over the course of the last 5 years, you know, between the new needles, like new machines, new pigments, new aftercare, like everything is so diverse now. I think for any person looking to get SMP, now is the best time in history. We have the best educated artists. The needle configurations are so tiny, and you can really get that natural realism, which is really beautiful. As long as you're going to somebody that's reputable and not one of these smoke and mirrors practitioners that, you know, train for 2 days, is stealing everybody else's pictures and putting them on their website, saying that they're the holy grail, and then they're coming in, because let me tell you, I've had some people walk through my door and then they've been getting done from schools and academies here, and it's like it's teal. Like this guy came in with a scalp that was teal. And I was like, you just need to go back to whoever did this to you and have them correct it, because it wasn't my place to take on somebody else's work. I really felt that it was, you know, the responsibility of the artist, because if any of my clients had any issues, I would be devastated if they went somewhere else and didn't allow me the opportunity to correct the work. So, you know, we only know what we know, and we didn't know any of this 10 years ago. But now we know, and, you know, between carbon and the Permablend, those are the only 2 pigments that I would use in the scalp. I would never use any other tattoo pigment. I wouldn't use any other permanent makeup pigment. They've been specifically designed, and they're true. They're tried, tested, and true. So,
yeah. Brilliant. All right, well, let's have a chat about the feeling of the manual technique versus machine work. Are they comparable, or are there some
Very
big...
comparable. If anything, because it's slower, it's a little bit more relaxing.
Mhm.
There's no vibration. There's no buzz of the machine. So I find that my clients all go to sleep. And again, I do it. I use the manual technique for smaller areas. I don't use it for a full head. And if somebody was really fearful of the machine, because as you know, some people get kind of wigged out when they start hearing that, it gives a nice option to switch it up. Or if my wrist is in a really bad place because I've been doing multiple clients and I'm fatigued, it gives me that option to still continue to, you know, carry out the procedure, and it's very comfortable for them. Like,
Yeah.
I would say it's as comparable.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm feeling like the manual technique would be a great option for touch-ups or maintenance. So say if someone comes back at the 1 month mark and you just have a tiny little section, or maybe just, you know, lowering the hairline. I'm feeling like the manual technique would be a great benefit to an artist to offer,
It is.
without having to do a full machine setup.
It is. And it's really also good for scar work, because you can really feel the pressure. You can't feel the pressure as much with the machine. I just feel the vibration takes away that tactility. And having the manual technique, you can really feel, you know, the structure of the scarring, and you know the depth. So it definitely has. And for patch tests, it's, you know, it's fabulous. And you're not spending, you know, $10 to $20 on a needle. You know, the needles are, you know, $1 a piece. It's easy, no problem.
Excellent. And who would be a better candidate for a manual method versus a scalp micropigmentation? We did just cover a little bit then, but who would you say is the better candidate for a manual technique?
I would say people that are either hesitant, Women are very good because you've got the hair, you've got all that hair to work through, the temple area. But people that have smaller amounts of work, I would never take on a full head doing manual work. It would take hours and hours. And I like to work in 2-hour sessions. So I want to be very effective and productive with my time. But generally people with smaller scarring, or women.
Yeah. Brilliant. And after a treatment, if you were to compare, say, a scalp that had been treated with the manual method versus a scalp that had been treated with machine work, do they look the same? Is one more aggravated than the other? You know, how do they present after?
It's very similar. I think that the dots may be a little more irregular with the manual. It doesn't have that same preciseness as with the machine. So it's a little bit more of a natural look, opposed to with the machine, where it can be a little bit more dramatic. That would, I think it's a little bit softer, but I mean, still the dots are very crisp. They come out really well. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
You probably can't. No, you can't. I like to work on my arm, you know, because I want to test if I have a new pigment color, or if I found a new needle. I like to test on myself.
I remember grabbing your arm last year at the Team Micro. I'm like, let's have a look at this arm. I want to see this up close.
I know. Yeah.
And what is the general treatment process for a client? So what can a client expect when they're decided to commit to, say, doing temple work? What can you recommend to them about how this process is going to be carried out?
Well, I always like to, of course, have a consultation and make sure that we're the right fit for each other, because this is a process that's going to take time. If somebody's really hasty or pushy, I am not your girl. I like to take my time. I'm very methodical. I work in shorter sessions, and I see the clients come back, you know, maybe in a week's time or so, and then we'll do another session. If I can get them to wait longer, I like it to be full. Like I'd love to have a full month in between sessions. But if somebody is really hasty, then at least a week, so that there's that superficial healing before you're going in there and, you know, irritating it again. But basically, it's the same as SMP. You just you know, leave it alone and let it heal and do its thing, and not wash or exercise. Very standard. So there's not a lot of variation. You know, you're still putting a pigment deposit into the skin. You're still puncturing. It's just that instead of doing this, you're doing this. It's just a different. It's just a different. It's just a different technique. It's like having two different paintbrushes, but they still both paint.
Yeah, brilliant. And would you love to share with us one of your most memorable client transformations?
Oh, yes, I would. So I have this client that he's one of my first of the Manual Technique method. And when he came into me, he was overweight, baseball hat, head down, very insecure, wouldn't look at me in the eye. You know, just very wounded, a wounded soul. And over time, as he continued to come in, you know, he's standing up, he's feeling stronger, going to the gym, you know, not wearing his hat, feeling, you know, very proud. And we completed his session. He went and traveled, met the love of his life.
Yeah.
And within a year of having his SMP, was married, and then they've had a baby.
Oh.
So he absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, has contributed his, you know, life journey now to his SMP, because he said, Shauna, I was so incredibly insecure that there's no hope in hell I would have ever been able to meet this girl, let alone talk to her. But the SMP gave me the confidence to get out there, and my life is completely transformed. So that's my most, sorry, I get emotional. It's just, yeah. And he's become such a sweet guy, and he's almost a little obsessed now. It's like, he's like, Shauna, I need to come in for a therapy session, because we chat so much now. And really, it's like, he came in, you know, last year, and I was like, really, you don't really need anything. He's like, oh, I'm sure there's something in there. No, yeah. But, you know, you just build a bond with these people. And I think when you've impacted somebody's life so exponentially like that, they really connect with you, and they want to keep that connection going. So it's really lovely. I don't socialize with very many of my clients, but, you know, I was down in his area and gave him a call, and saw him and his wife and their little baby, and, you know, went to the park, and it was just beautiful. And that's what I live for. And, you know, I know that I can pass away tomorrow and know that I've done some good in the world and made a difference in people's lives. And that's why I truly do what I do.
Yeah, that is brilliant. So lovely. And I think we've all got these special stories, but it's just lovely for you to have a chance to tell everyone about a really beautiful experience that you had. So thank you. Thanks so much for sharing information today. It was fantastic information on the manual method, and we hope it does brilliantly. It certainly has a place in the market. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm in the process right now of putting together practice kits. They're going to have 5 levels of practice. So I've got all the materials. I've been sourcing them for over a year. I finally put it all together. So I will be putting that out there into our Team Micro world soon. Once I'm very methodical. I have to make sure everything's right before I can let it go. So I'm 80% there. So you'll see it in the next month or so. And I'm excited to share so other people can start learning this technique and offering it as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And we will be putting the information on Shauna's training below as well. So if you're an artist watching this or listening to this and you would love to connect with Shauna, you will find her details in the links below.
Yeah, and you can catch me on Instagram at BeautyInk, BeautyInk with the registration. And you can direct message me. I'm happy to chat and share with anybody. And I look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shauna. You're so giving.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the 5-minute fast facts on scalp micropigmentation. I know that you've helped someone out there who's looking into a procedure and is looking for more information. So thanks again.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Caitlin, for all that you have done. And you have been such an inspiration to me and the community. Your work is impeccably amazing. And anybody in Australia, go see Caitlin. She is thebomb.com. And thank you so much for bringing our community together. And I'm sad that Team Micro got, MOM got canceled this year, but I'll see you next year, and we are going to be drinking, baby.
You know it. All right. And if you have any comments or questions, we want to hear from you. So as always, don't be shy. Make sure you give us a call or an email, pop something in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. So don't miss out on any updates. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any updates as we release our latest content. Thanks so much again, Shauna.
Thank you. So great. This is so great for you to do. I love the fact that you're giving so much valuable information to the community and to the world. So thank you so much for being an advocate.
Yay. Bye.
Bye, honey.